Uh, hey guys. Just so you know, this video is a video just to show you guys kind of like top 10 tricks with Cowboy, tips, tricks that kind of like should help you through your journey if you are playing Cowboy, of course. This is let me just clarify. This is not a guide. This is legit not a guide. This is just tricks that and tips that I feel like you guys should know to become better with him. This is not a guide. This is just knowledge I know as a player. I played Cowboy for a very long time, and I've been S-Badge with him for seasons now. So I just want you guys to let you know that this is just a tips. This is not a guide. Anyway, please enjoy. Alrighty, tip 1 is practice instant lassoing. Instant lassoing to this day, even after the nerf he's got off balloon for instant lassoing, is still very important. This is very important when it comes to kiting, tricks, and even avoiding hits. This can also come helpful for helping survivors mid-game and early game if you need to. Instant lassoing is very important. You still need to practice it, and you still need to use it to this day. Now, in these clips, you see Blood Queen is able to hit me while I'm trying to lasso over her. The reason is because my auto progression takes time. But if you're able to instant lasso, you're able to avoid these types of hit. This works with many scenarios with Blood Queen, tentacles, bombs, many scenarios. And it comes in handy with mind games. The Blood Queen thought I was going to that pallet because I was facing it. But since I instant lasso, I avoided taking the hit because I was able to instant lasso and avoid it. Alrighty, tip 2 is knowing the range of the lasso. Some people don't know the actual range of the lasso, and that's very important. There's a thing that I like to call no glow aiming, and essentially what that is when you aim at a pallet, a cipher that looks like that's not glowing. You'll see me aim at things in pallets that don't glow, but as you can see, they still pull me towards that pallet. Why? The reason is because the pallet has a certain hitbox. If you're in range of that pallet and you know and aim at the actual pallet itself, even if it doesn't glow, it'll still pull you towards that pallet. If the pallet's upwards, sideways, you can pull it at a cheeky little angle because the pallet hitbox is big. This works in many scenarios. See, it glows, I back out of the glowing option and it'll still pull me. That's the full range of the lasso. Knowing this and doing it mid-game and in any type of scenario is very important, and it really comes in handy when you're in certain situations. Most Cowboys do not know this. They think it has to glow green. No, it doesn't. As you can see, it's glowing green. Back out of the glowing green, and it still pulls you because of that cheeky little angle. This is very crucial. You need to know the range of the lasso. Knowing this range comes very helpful in many different scenarios. Alrighty, tip number 3, use your environment. Use your environment as Cowboy. Using your environment as Cowboy is very, very also important. It's basically saves you lasso. The reason why you need to use your environment is because saving that lasso can be very, very crucial in case you need to late game harass or late game kite. Everyone is so good at transitioning with Cowboy, but to be fair, you can kite longer and use your lasso more efficient by using your environment. You'll see in this clip that Cats cuts me off, and I'm gonna pretty much take a hit here if I don't use my lasso. But since I'm using my environment, I thought of something creative, and that's stunning him with a wall. This is Red Church. You can stun hunters with walls. So I was supposed to take a hit there, to be honest. But since I use my environment and stun him with a wall, I just stun him and transition to church. And that's buying me more time. I've yet to use Lasso, and that right there bought me like a free 20, 30 seconds of just transitioning and not using my lasso. So he cuts me off again, and I'm back in the same scenario where we originally were. So I'm just looping him, wasting more time because I have a plan. This doesn't always work out, but since I have this set up already, Cats comes to the wall, I stun him with the wall again, and then I just use my lasso, and I barely use one, like, legit less than a third of my lasso, just stunning him and looping the same area. This promotes Cypher Rush. I'm not leading him to anybody's Cypher, and it's saving me lasso in case in end game I need to kite. When you're a Cowboy end game, if the hunter has trump card, and if you just get farmed almost immediately or die too quickly, all they have to do is just switch teleport and boom. That's probably gonna cost your team a tie after all that hard work. So as you can see, please use your environment. Tie kite if you need to, transition when you have to. Alrighty, next tip. Tip number 4, excitement counter. Believe it or not, as Cowboy, a lot of Cowboys get intimidated by excitement. Don't let that intimidate you. As a Cowboy, if you are able to lock on to the balloon when the hunter uses excitement, you can still pull the survivor once that excitement runs out. As soon as that excitement runs out, you can pull the survivor off balloon. So don't drop your lasso and wait for the excitement to run out and then aim. Aim, but without the excitement. As soon as the excitement runs out, you can pull. You need to not drop your lasso. You need to aim, keep it locked on, wait for the excitement to go out, and then pull. Here's another example. This example shows you what happens if you do it too early. If you do it too early before it actually runs out, you won't pull the survivor. You need to be patient and just practice with it. When you practice with it, you'll get the hang of it. Just lock on, wait for it to run out, and pull. Alright, tip number 5 is playstyles. Now, there's 2 types of playstyles with Cowboy. One is support. Support is when you do nothing but decoding till someone gets on balloon, and then you rescue. You don't help them transition, you don't kite for them, or any of that. All you try to do is just help and lasso them once they get on balloon. This is to ensure that you don't take any damage, to ensure you can keep harassing if you need to, and it's to constantly help them and waste as much time as possible while your teammates decode and you stay fine in case you actually need to body block and still help out, or in case you need to heal stall, or whatever the case may be. Support is when you wait for them to get on balloon and rescue. It's so playing it safe. Now, the second playstyle is aggressive. Aggressive is that as soon as the Merc rescues, or whoever else rescues, it's an official rescuer, with Titan or whoever it may be, is when you just go in and just help out the survivor. Aggressive can be played 2 different ways as well. It's when you don't even finish a cipher and you just go help out like some type of wildling would, you know? As soon as you don't even decode sometimes, you just go out, try to help waste as much time as possible. Early game, mid game, late game, whatever it may be. Aggressive is constantly helping the survivor who is being chased transition to a better area, help them off balloon, and just constantly waste as much time as possible. Body blocking, helping them throw down pallets, and just constantly looping. I would prefer most Cowboys to learn and balance between the two. Alrighty, tip number 6, kiting tips. So with Cowboy, you're gonna see me do a little trick here. You see that I'm auto locking onto the geisha, and as soon as they flip, I get pushed to the side of her. This is because I get blocked off by the benches, but if you back up, the further you are, and you lock on and flip over the hunter, stuff like benches and pallets won't really affect you. You're able to lasso over benches and pallets. With this trick, the further you are from the hunter, the more you can do these with little objects. And this trick works on Moonlit, Lakeside, Red Church, anything like that that's small you could probably flip over. Now in this next 1v1, you're going to see me do a thing called Fear Factor. Now Fear Factor is where I like to call it where I double back at the pallet. And it's like essentially I'm going for the stun, but I make it obvious. Like the hunter sees me going back. What this does basically is that it scares the hunter and think like, oh no, this survivor's about to try to stun me. I'm going to back up or maybe swing at the pallet. That's really good because, in a sense, if you're like a mechanic who's tight kiting or a mind's eye that's tight kiting, this scares the hunter and it makes them not trust the pallets. So they usually respect pallets. Now you see me doubling back. They get scared of my cowboy stun because if you get stunned by a cowboy, it's very long. So they back up. You'll see me lassoing pallets through the windows. A lot of people don't know that you can do a cowboy. You can lasso through these little windows here. Yeah, these windows are just like a normal window, but it's covered up by like bars, which is just art design. So that's why it lets you lasso through them. It's just art. It's not really anything like a physical object. It's just art. And so basically, fear factor is just doubling back at that pallet and letting the hunter know that, hey, I might stun you. And so if they end up walking through it, it's a stun. But if they respect it, you just drop the pallet and then they're forced to break it. This is especially good with hunters with trump card like Feaster, Vio, any of those type of hunters because they have slower pallet breaking speed, which buys you second for like your lasso to come back, build the last second of that Seer Owl, help a Mind's Eye Kite for that extra 2 to 3 seconds, Mechanic Kite for an extra 2 to 3 seconds, and even buy you that last millisecond of perfume if you need to. This is very helpful, but just remember, know the distance. Don't get too greedy. Some hunters will swing at pallets, so just be patient. Practice with this. But overall, just remember the more further you are over objects, you can lasso over them, and fear factor. Alrighty, tip number 7 is builds. Now, there's 3 main builds people like to use with Cowboy. And essentially this is one of them, but sometimes I don't like running sticker. This is just an optional build sometimes I use. I'm trying to get used to this one, but I personally still don't like it. um, this is my original build, my OG build. This is the build that I've been using for seasons. It's broken windows, max struggle, 2 pallet, and 1 down. This is really helpful in every scenario, on every map, with any type against hunter. It's been really useful. It's been the one I rely on the most because max struggling, you can see survivors through walls, and 2 pallet, which pretty good stun time. And there's other builds. This other build I will show you is the one that a lot of cowboys try to use to this day now, which is basically tie turner, borrow time, and 2 on pallet. What this does is gives you a pallet boost. Prisoner's Dilemma is what lets you see the hunter in case they die. The survivor dies in a second story or is a big boat, and you can see where they're going when they're on balloon. It's really helpful to know where they're gonna go, and so you don't get like lost and don't know where they're going. It's really, really helpful. I recommend using that on every build, no matter what. This next build is my I don't trust my teammates build. It's also a good one that I like to use in 2v8 as well. Essentially what this is it's Spectator. Spectator gives you a 10% increased movement speed when there's an injured survivor, and it gives you basically 20% healing speed, which is like Doctor. And you get broken windows with pallet stun, which to make sure you do a good enough kite. And it's good. It's really good, to be honest. And Doctor, which stacks on top of Spectator, so it's like max healing for any scenario for yourself and for other survivors. And this Spectator is really helpful because it counters things like peepers, trump card movement speed, tentacles, anything like that. It helps you balance out with the movement speed, so it doesn't mean you're too slow, and it will help you stay in range of the balloons range, so you can pull. It's really helpful. It depends on your team comp. It's a risk, but it's high risk, high reward. But I would recommend using this build all the time. This build is, no matter whatever has happened, it's always worked out for me. I like using it in case I die in a good area to struggle free, or whatever the case may be. And I would just give it a shot. But this 2v8 build, the Don't Trust My Teammates build, is iffy, and this is the build I would least recommend. But if you, this build only works on, I would say, small maps usually, like Arms and Red Church. But if you are confident enough to kite and harass on a big map or a small map with this build, then go ahead. But this is my third least recommended build, but I would stick to this build. This build is the OG build I like to use, and with the no borrow time build, it's high risk, high reward. It depends on your team comp and if you are confident enough in kiting. Alrighty, step number 8, aim assist. Aim assist is the little white dot that you aim with, but you see that little circle. That circle has to be locked on. Once it's locked on fully for about a second or two, it's basically called an aim assist. And aim assisting essentially helps you avoid any type of hits, because once you're in midair, you're invincible to any types of attack, whether it be projectiles or actual base attacks. So, and it's really good to help you avoid hits, because as you can see in this clip, the Blood Queen tries to sandwich me with her mirror image, but since I flip over her, even if she swung and hit me, it did not register because I was able to flip over her. Now, in this example, you'll see me using aim assist when the mechanic. Now, the mechanic did a slow volt and was going to get stringed or even probably terror shocked. So, in this example, I pull her with the aim assist, not hitting the pallet, but getting her and avoiding the terror shock and the string. In this example too, she's at the pallet, she's slow vaults, gonna get stringed. I pull her because of the lock on. It's easier to lock on if you aim up. The pallet has a good hitbox, but if you don't lock on properly, you will lasso the pallet. So it's more easier if you lock on to the survivor and pull them. And this works with a lot of other tricks too. If the hunter is behind a pallet and you instant lasso correctly, to this day, you can still pull over pallets. You can flip over pallets just like the bench trick earlier taught. This works with any type of hunter, but if they're a small hunter like Robbie or a spider or a Dream Witch minion, probably not. I think it's still possible. I haven't tested it, but I'm pretty sure you can. Now in this clip, this is where you can instant lasso through those windows. It's very helpful. A lot of hunters don't expect it. Alrighty, step number 9, the new instant lasso. Now, essentially what this is, it's a trick that I've thought of when I got really upset about thinking about the instant lasso and how it's gone. And step number 9, basically, the new instant lasso is doing the one thing a lot of Cowboy mains always told you guys not to do. This was meant for forwards, but even before the adjustment, Cowboy mains told you never to do this. And essentially what this is die in a pallet. Now, why would you die in a pallet? Well, if you die in a pallet, a lot of hunters know that you cannot instant lasso. So what you can do is that if a survivor dies in a pallet, you can lasso the pallet and stun while they're on balloon. Essentially what this does is saves you a lot more lasso. It's a bigger stun and it helps the survivor get away for sure. Alrighty, last step number 10, chair spots. Now, chair spots are the sneaky little saves you get off a chair. This helps against camping hunters mostly, but it's really good if you're able to pull it off when there's a rescue air and they're being harassed. And this gives you a little free save and can even make the hunter lose the survivor. This is really good in many scenarios, but it depends how you do it. Now, I made a video about this before, and some of those chair spots got nerfed completely, but some of them are harder to do. Some of them are still around, but harder to do. Some were just completely destroyed and just no longer able to do. But I recommend you guys is to practice that, see what you guys can do, still practice chair spots, try to find out little cheeky little angles you guys can do, sneaky little saves. Whatever you guys can do, the more knowledge, the more sneaky stuff you can do, it will help in the long run. I guarantee it. No matter if it's like a basic save through a window from anything like that, or a manual save, or a sneak up save, or a wall save, whatever you do, the more tricks you have up your sleeve, it will be helpful. Now, with that being said, this concludes my top 10 tricks and tips for Cowboy. And I hope you guys learned something, and I hope you guys can become better at Cowboy.
Heart on fire, set my heart afire.